Welcome to Holy Bull Week, and this time around we're going to take a look at the stakes portion of the Holy Bull card at Gulfstream Park. Of course, it's going to be on Saturday at Gulfstream Park. That does include 5 different stakes races, including the Holy Bull for 3-year-old colts. We've got the Forward Gale for 3-year-old fillies. Then we've got turf races for 3-year-olds, including the Kittens Joy and the Sweetest Chant stakes. And then we have another 3-year-old colt race for the boys, the Swale stakes, which used to have a lot of significance back in the day at Gulfstream Park. I do think a couple of the horses that entered the Swale, which is at 7 furlongs, could be maybe coming back if they do well to run in the Fountain of Youth Stakes, which is the next leg in the Gulfstream Park series. So the Holy Bull Handicapping Show, we're going to take a look at some of the maiden races for 3-year-olds, also that 3-year-old allowance race, the 7th race, all 5 of the stakes races, give you my selection, get you up to date on the latest Kentucky Derby news. Don't forget on the channel, we already have previews up of the Robert Lewis Stakes. That's going to be Saturday at the Great Race Place, Santa Anita. And then also on Saturday, we've got a preview up of the Holy Bull Stakes. But let's get going. Remember, if you have any questions, make sure to get them in here. And starting off with the Holy Bull card on Saturday at Gulfstream Park, we've got race number 6 is the Swale Stakes. Race number 9 is the Kittens Joy. That'll be on the turf. Race number 10 is the Forward Gale for 3-year-old fillies, the Sweetest Chant, number 11 on the card, and then Holy Bull, the finale. That is going to be race number 12, all on Saturday, all at Gulfstream Park. Big day of racing, and of course, a long day, but 12 races, some nice field sizes, and we're going to be taking a look at each of those races, some of the top contenders, and then I'm going to give you my top selection in each of those stakes races and also take a look at a few other races on Saturday at Gulfstream Park. So the first race I want to take a look at is the 7th race. This is an allowance race for 3-year-old colts. It does include Todd Pletcher sending out a couple of horses. He has got the number 1 horse and the number 7 horse, Shesterkin. Now, Shesterkin is a hockey player, but he's also a horse. He won his debut race on December the 26th at Gulfstream Park, so he avoided the curse of Apollo. Meanwhile, Tapit Trice won his last race. He was entered as part of the Kentucky Derby Future Wager Pool, number 3. You could bet on him. Then we've got Classic Car Wash, Live His Life, Master of None, Emperor's Appeal, and Boppy-O. So a nice competitive race. And race number 7, I think the key matchup here is Tapit Trice, who I don't think has a lot of the speed. He seems to be a little bit more slowly progressing and developing more slow for Todd Pletcher. The one to watch here, probably with the most talent, is Shesterkin to see if he can pick up the win. I have a feeling the winner of this race, definitely, maybe the runner-up, could point to races like the Tampa Bay Derby or the Fountain of Youth. Now, Forte, the juvenile champion, Todd Pletcher trains Forte. If one of these 2 Todd Pletcher horses, either Tapit Trice or Hard to Handle, win, they could be entered either in the Tampa Bay Derby or maybe a second pairing for Todd Pletcher. Remember, next week is the Sam F. Davis. That's going to be at Tampa Bay. We've got at least 1 horse pointed to that race by Todd Pletcher. Joseph Saffie could be there. And then the return in that race of the Remsen Stakes winner, WNL, most likely going to be entered in the Sam F. Davis next week. So remember, if you have any questions about the Derby week or the races tomorrow, make sure to get them in. And so my top selection in that race for race number 7 is going to be number 3, Classic Car Wash. And what I like about this race is Mark Casse trains. I like the early speed. I like the fact that he seems to be improving. His speed figures are a little bit slower than Shesterkin and right on par with Tapit Trice. But I like the fact that he's got good form right now. He's got 2 straight wins. He drew inside of Shesterkin. And I like the fact that he was bet down against Super Chow at 5 furlongs And Super Chow has won 5 races in a row. He is going to be entered in the Swale Stakes on Saturday. So that is my top selection in race number 7. The 3-horse Classic Car Wash is going to be my top selection on race number 7 at Gulfstream Park. Now, the Swale Stakes includes General Jim, who comes out of the Mucho Macho Man Stakes, KEANU. Number 3 is Two of a Kind. Air Raj, a winner in his debut, but that was on a sloppy track. And then King Sparrow and Super Chow, who I just talked about, 5 straight wins. He's won at Keeneland, he's won at Tampa Bay, and he's also won at Gulfstream Park. Now he's going to try to pick up the Swale Stakes. The key here is the distance. They're going 7 furlongs. And the Swale Stakes, again, I think some of the horses out of this race could be entered either in the Fountain of Youth Stakes or the Sam F. Day or the Tampa Bay Derby. Remember, the Fountain of Youth is on March 4th, and the Tampa Bay Derby is on March 11th. And then both of those, theoretically, sometimes horses go from the Tampa Bay Derby to the Bluegrass. Sometimes they go to the Florida Derby. But the Swale Stakes, 7 furlongs, Super Chow and A-Raj, I think, going to be played on a lot of tickets, going to be a lot of choices. But my top selection in the Swale Stakes, kind of going to be playing a trip angle in this race. It's going to be General Jim. General Jim is by Into Mischief, been training well. And what I like about this one is he was trapped in his last race. He was at the rail most of the race. He could never get outside horses. And I think a lot of people saw that. So I do think he will be bet down. I think he'll be about 5-2 or 3-1. But now they shorten him up. So you get the cutback to 7 furlongs from a longer distance. He gets the blinkers on. He also hopefully gets out this time, gets a little bit better trip. He draws the rail, and he was boxed in the last race. So my top selection in the Swale Stakes on Saturday, Holy Bull Week, is going to be number 1, General Jim in the Swale Stakes. So that's my top selection. I like the cutback. I like the blinkers on, the Into Mischief breeding. I like the fact that they tried him on turf, then they're putting him on dirt. I think if he runs a good race here, he could go to the Fountain of Youth or the Tampa Bay Derby, or a possibility of even a race like the Wood Memorial. He's already had the 1 prep in the Mucho Macho Man. This would be a kind of a speed tightener at 7 furlongs. If he can't win this type of race, then he's most likely going to probably go back to the turf and maybe stretch out. I could see General Jim doing well on the turf. So that is a look at the Swale Stakes. It is going to be race number 6 on the Gulfstream card on Saturday. Now, the Kittens Joy, that did draw an 8-horse field. It's going to be have to watch for scratches. The weather, it is supposed to rain on Saturday. It's about a 50% chance of rain. They might have some morning showers, and then they may have some afternoon showers. So I don't know if it's going to be enough to take the races off the turf, but it could make it a little bit soft at Gulfstream Park for the Kittens Joy. A lot of contenders in this race. You've got Candidate, SOUZAK, Mooncat, who was a bet down horse the last time. Now, Irad Ortiz rode 3 of these horses. He rode Mooncat, he rode Dude in Colorado, and he also rode another one of the contenders in this race. This is the Kittens Joy. And what's interesting about this is who I think Irad Ortiz kind of chose in this race. Mooncat down to 3-1 the last time by Malibu Moon out of a Japan broodmare sire, Silent Name, who was by Sunday Silence. Major Dude goes for Todd Pletcher. He ran on the Dania Beach against Candidate. Candidate won that race. I do think SOUZAK could improve second time in America for Graham Motion. Lights of Broadway, second last time out in the Pulpit Stakes. And then one of the more impressive winners on the synthetic surface at Gulfstream Park, Luis Saez takes over for Irad Ortiz. Dude in Colorado went wire to wire out of the 11th post position the last time. And then you've got the Dana Beach 4th place horse, Congruent, 5-1. And then Bapio, we'll see if he goes in this race. Bapio, another one for Mark Casse in this race. Bapio, 5-1 on the morning line. Now, when you take a look overall at this race, I do think there's some speed. Mooncat came off the pace. Dude in Colorado went on the front end the last time. He was able to set fast fractions. My top selection in the Kittens Joy is going to be Dude in Colorado. I like that fast race on the synthetic. He goes synthetic to turf. He's got the speed. He's out of an Ireland mare, and he's got 3 workouts since that last race, winning at Gulfstream Park. Interesting, Dude in Colorado was nominated for the Holy Bull. He's not entered for that race. He is entered for the Sam F. Davis next week at Tampa Bay, nominated. So maybe they'll scratch, maybe not. Maybe they're just looking for the race to wash off and go to the synthetic, and they can run them on that surface. So with those extra surface at Gulfstream Park, Kittens Joy, my top selection, is going to be the number 6 horse in Dude in Colorado. Now, when you take a look at the Forward Gal, this is for 3-year-old fillies. They're going to be back on the dirt, race number 9. And the Forward Gal did draw some top contenders. And overall for the Forward Gal, you know, I think you can take a number of horses. Atomically comes out of that Breeders' Cup. She was bet down in the big race the last time in the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Fillies. Flakes is 20-1 on the morning line. Atomically is 3-1 for Todd Pletcher by Gervin. Arella Star, another 20-1 shot. Showed some speed the last time at a mile. Cuts back to the 7 furlongs. And then Lynx, 6-1. Ran in the Cash Run Stakes, another one that cuts back to 7 furlongs. Undervalued Asset won by 8 lengths with a 72 speed figure for Clarovich Stables and Chad Brown. And my top selection in the Forward Gal Stakes is going to be Undervalued Asset, 7-2 on the morning line. Irad Ortiz rides in this race. And next we go to the Holy Bull Stakes. The Holy Bull Stakes, of course, going to be race number 12 on the card. I did a full preview if you want to watch just that. Number 1 is Lord Miles for Safi Joseph. He also trains the number 2 horse, West Coast Cowboy. Lord Miles adds the blinkers. He's by Curlin. He was closing in his maiden race when he picked up the win first time out, and then he came from off the pace. He looked well beaten at the top of the stretch, ended up closing down to 3rd place. Lord Miles definitely probably going to be about 7-2 or 4-1. When the odds go off. Shadow Dragon, a little bit of a long shot in this race. Cyclone Mischief has shown speed in a couple of his races, but his best race was last time out at Gulfstream Park. That was off the layoff for Dale Romans. He was 6-1 in that race, beat a couple of highly regarded horses, Litigate, who may run next week in the Sam F. Davis. And then he also beat the favorite in that race. Cyclone Mischief galloped out well. Had a nice couple of workouts since that last race. Mr. Bob, a nice claim in his first race. He's going to go up in class in this race. Legacy Isle is technically 3 for 3. He was disqualified from the win the last time out. He's got speed, and I think he'll be up on the pace. He did not a lot of speed in this race, so I could see Legacy Isle being up near the leaders. Il Miracolo is a closer, and then Rocket Can for Bill Mott. Of course, he won the Pegasus Stakes last week. What I like about Rocket Can, he was a little bit ranked the last time out, ended up dueling against Confidence Game at Keeneland, faded back late in that race. Workouts have been good. And I think Rocket Can definitely improve in a race like the Holy Bull. I think for the pick 4 and pick 5, you want to use horses like Cyclone Mischief, Rocket Can, and Lord Miles. I think Rocket Can come a little bit off the pace if he wants to, but I could see him on the lead, challenging for the lead with Legacy Isle. I think Cyclone Mischief wants to come just off the pace if he can try to get kind of tripped. So we've got Charles. He says, Mr. Bob, he likes the claim on Mr. Bob. Yeah, that was a nice claim. We'll see if he can kind of step up in class and compete at this level. You know, his speed figure is a little bit on the slower side, but when you look at Mr. Bob overall, he did win by 5. That was at Keeneland, and the fractions were pretty solid in that race. The pace fractions overall, he got a speed figure of 75 for Mr. Bob. The best speed figure was the last race, 90 for Cyclone Mischief and an 82 for Rocket Can. So Charles is going with Mr. Bob. And Charles also says Dale Romans can't hit the board the past few years. So yeah, he's had a trouble. It's good to see him back on the trail again here with Cyclone Mischief. And then we'll see if Rocket can continue the little bit of a strong Gulfstream Park meet here for Bill Mott. He's been sending out some live runners. Now, my top selection in this race was Cyclone Mischief. I like the big speed figure. I like the fact that he came off the pace. He ran in that Kentucky Jockey Club Juvenile, but he was involved in a speed duel most of that race. And then late in the race, he was overtaken. But 7 horses finished within about 3 lengths in that race. Instant Coffee did come out of that race to win the Lecomte Stakes at the fairgrounds. But I also could make the case for Lord Miles. He'll be a little bit longer price. And then Rocket Can. Il Miracolo is one you may want to consider in the exacta and the trifecta. If he comes off the pace, I think he can run a little bit better race from off the pace for Il Miracolo. He would be the one long shot that I would include in a race here like the Holy Bull. So the top contenders, as I see it on the board, Cyclone Mischief, Rocket Can, and Lord Miles. And my top selection for the Holy Bull is going to be Cyclone Mischief. Now, remember, support the channel, smash that like button, and recapping the stakes portion of the card. My top selection in race number 6, the Swale Stakes, is going to be General Jim. In race number 9, the Kittens Joy is going to be Dude in Colorado. Race 10 is going to be Lynx in the Sweetest Chant. Race 11, Alpha Bella, I think has a nice chance in the Forward Gale Stakes, along with, I think, the Chad Brown horse. I think those are 2 horses. Actually, Alpha Bella's in the Sweetest Chant in race number 11. So Alpha Bella is number 5 at 8-1 in race number 11. And then you've got race 12 is Cyclone Mischief. So those are some of the contenders to use in a race like this. The Wither Stakes, that one got postponed until next week for Aqueduct. They got froze out. They are canceling the Friday and Saturday card. And then also the Robert Lewis is going to be on Saturday at Santa Anita. Bob Baffert entering all 4 horses. You can take a look at my selection in that race. Siggy Mendoza says Super Chow is a gutsy horse. Yeah, I think 7 furlongs could be the challenge. Now, there isn't going to be a lot of speed in that race, so Chantel Sutherland stays on that horse. She's won with that horse a couple of times. I like the fact that he's won at Keeneland. He's won at Tampa Bay, but 7 furlongs is going to be the deciding factor. I think with blinkers on and that inside draw, General Jim could have a shot there in that race. But Super Chow, definitely a chance to pick up that victory in the Swale Stakes. So definitely some horses to consider. Don't forget, smash that like button, support the channel, give me a thanks, and hit that like button so we get more viewers of the channel. Next week, we're going to have previews up of the Suncoast Stakes. We're going to have Dreaming of Julia, along with Wonder Wheel, the 2-year-old juvenile filly champion, both pointing for that race. The Sam F. Davis, we're also going to have a preview up of that race. And W&L making his thing. A couple of Todd Pletcher horses nominated, Saffy Joseph with Prairie Hawk. I think that Sam F. Davis could be a good race. And the Minaret Stakes is also on that card. I will be at Tampa Bay Downs next week doing some live updates from the paddock and walking ring as they go onto the track. So make sure to watch those. We'll do some YouTube shorts, and we want everybody to get the Triple Crown Trail is starting to heat up. We'll do a recap on Sunday of the Derby points leaders and get you up to date on the latest workouts. The big news out of last week's prep was Arabian Night, most likely now not going to run until the Arkansas Derby. They are going to space out his races. Forte had his second work last week. He's scheduled to work again on Saturday. He is pointing to the Fountain of Youth. Cave Rock still has not worked, and it looks like we're going to see Blazing Sevens either in the Fountain of Youth or possibly the Risen Star later on at the end of the month. Chad Brown slowly working him back into shape. Of course, he's by Curlin. He won the Champagne Stakes. He won in the Slop. He also ran in the Breeders' Cup Juvenile as part of the Breeders' Cup weekend. So the good horses are starting to come out now. Still some other horses ready to fire. Also, weekend of March 10th and 11th is Kentucky Derby Future Wager number 4. We'll talk about that next week. We're going to be doing a live handicapping show again. We're going to go over the entire card for Tampa Bay. That'll be next Friday afternoon, early evening, going over all the stakes races and the rest of the card on Saturday. So smash that like button. Good luck, everybody, on Saturday for the Gulfstream Park card. Leave your questions. We can answer those next week as we get you ready for the Kentucky Derby 2023.